The mystery of heaven. What if everything we know, everything we see, touch, and experience is just a small fraction of reality? Close your eyes for a moment and imagine. A brilliant light surrounds you, warm and comforting, yet more powerful than the sun. In the distance, you hear something, music, but not just any music. It's a harmony so pure, so overwhelmingly beautiful, that your heart almost stops. There is no pain, no sorrow, no fear, only an overwhelming sense of peace, love, and belonging. Could this be heaven? For thousands of years, humanity has pondered the afterlife. What happens when we take our final breath? Do we simply cease to exist? Do we awaken in a new world? Or do we find ourselves standing before something so magnificent that words fail to describe it? Every civilization has tried to answer this question. Some believe in a paradise filled with golden streets and pearly gates. Others describe an endless sky, stretching beyond the limits of time and space. Some imagine a great cosmic city where souls reunite with loved ones. And some believe heaven is not a place at all, but a state of existence, one where the soul becomes one with the divine. But what is the truth? The Bible speaks of heaven as a real place, more real than anything we know. It describes a kingdom beyond human comprehension, a realm where time itself bends to the will of God. Ancient prophets, apostles, and even those who claim to have glimpsed heaven through near-death experiences all describe a place unlike anything on earth. A place of unimaginable beauty, overwhelming love, and perfect harmony. And yet, heaven remains a mystery. If heaven is real, where is it? Can we see it? Can we visit it? And most importantly, who gets to enter? Today, we begin a journey into the unknown. We will explore what Scripture reveals about heaven, what ancient texts have described, and what those who have come close to death have experienced. By the end, one question will remain. Could heaven be closer than we think? Let's find out. What is heaven? The mystery that haunts humanity. What if everything you think you know about heaven is wrong? When you hear the word heaven, what comes to mind? Do you picture a magnificent city floating above the clouds, its golden streets gleaming in eternal sunlight? Do you see an endless paradise where loved ones reunite, free from sorrow and pain? Or perhaps you imagine something more abstract, a spiritual dimension beyond time, where the soul merges with divine energy. For centuries, artists, poets, and philosophers have tried to capture the essence of heaven. Some describe it as a kingdom of eternal joy, ruled by God and his angels. Others see it as an infinite expanse of light, where human consciousness transcends earthly limitations. But here's the real question. Does heaven actually exist? Skeptics argue that heaven is nothing more than a comforting illusion, a fairy tale designed to ease the fear of death. Scientists search for evidence but find none. And yet, billions of people across history have believed in its existence, some claiming to have seen it, even if only for a brief moment. So why does the idea of heaven persist? Why do people across all cultures, throughout all of history, long for a place beyond this world? The answer may be simpler than we think. A universal longing. Why heaven captivates humanity. No matter where you go in the world, you will find people who believe in an afterlife. The ancient Egyptians built massive pyramids to prepare their rulers for the journey to the next world. The Greeks spoke of the Elysian Fields, a paradise reserved for heroes and the righteous. Norse mythology tells of Valhalla, where warriors feast in glory after battle. In nearly every culture, there exists a belief in something beyond this life, a place of reward, peace, or even ultimate enlightenment. But why? Perhaps it's because deep down, we know that this world is not enough. No matter how much wealth, power, or success a person gains, something always feels incomplete. Love fades, youth disappears, and even the happiest moments are fleeting. The human heart longs for something permanent, something beyond pain, beyond time, beyond death itself. And that longing has led to one of the most fascinating concepts in all of human history. The idea that heaven is not just one place, but a multi-layered reality. The three levels of heaven. What lies beyond? The Bible describes something truly intriguing. Not one, but three heavens. In the book of 2 Corinthians, The Apostle Paul writes about a man who was caught up to the third heaven. But what does that mean? If there is a third heaven, does that imply there's a first and second? Many biblical scholars believe that heaven is divided into three distinct realms: the first heaven, the sky, the atmosphere, the realm of birds and clouds. This is the heaven we see when we look up on a clear day. The second heaven, the universe beyond our planet, filled with stars, planets, and galaxies stretching into infinity. The third heaven, a divine realm, beyond physical space and time, where God dwells and where paradise exists. This concept is not unique to Christianity. Many ancient traditions speak of multiple layers of the afterlife. Hinduism describes different spiritual planes, Buddhism speaks of multiple levels of enlightenment, and even modern theories about parallel dimensions seem to echo this idea. But if the third heaven is truly the dwelling place of God, what exactly is it like? Is it a city of golden streets and pearl gates? Is it an endless garden, filled with beauty beyond imagination? Or is it something so extraordinary that human language cannot even begin to describe it? Perhaps the real question isn't what heaven looks like, but how we get there. The three heavens. A biblical perspective, the idea of heaven is one of the most profound mysteries in human history. But according to the Bible, heaven is not a single place. It is a multi-layered reality. In 2 Corinthians chapter 12, the Apostle Paul describes an extraordinary experience. He speaks of a man, whether in the body or out of it, he does not know, who was caught up to the third heaven. This statement raises a fascinating question. If there is a third heaven, does that mean there is a first and second? Biblical scholars and theologians believe that the scriptures reveal three distinct levels of heaven. The first heaven, the sky above us, the domain of clouds, birds, and the air we breathe. The second heaven, the vast expanse of the cosmos, filled with stars, planets, and galaxies stretching beyond human comprehension. The third heaven, the divine dwelling place of God, where paradise exists, untouched by sin or suffering. This three-tiered view of heaven is not unique to Christianity. Many ancient traditions, from Jewish mysticism to Eastern philosophy, speak of layered spiritual realms. But Paul's description of the third heaven gives us a rare glimpse beyond the physical world, into a reality so sacred that words fail to capture its majesty. Paul does not provide many details about what he saw. He simply says that he heard inexpressible words, things that no one is permitted to tell. It is as if heaven's beauty and holiness are beyond human understanding, too glorious to be spoken of in earthly terms. But while Paul does not describe the third heaven in detail, the Bible offers another powerful image of paradise, a place known as the Garden of God. Paradise. The Garden of God. Throughout the Bible, heaven is often compared to a garden, a place of life, peace, and unbroken fellowship with God. In fact, the very word paradise comes from the Greek word paradisos, which means a walled garden or enclosed park. The Garden of Eden, described in Genesis, was the first paradise, a place where humanity walked in perfect harmony with God. But when sin entered the world, that paradise was lost. However, the Bible promises that paradise will one day be restored. In Revelation chapter 2, verse 7, Jesus makes a promise. To the one who overcomes, I will grant the right to eat from the tree of life, which is in the paradise of God. This suggests that heaven is not just a city of gold and jewels. It is a living, vibrant paradise, a garden beyond imagination, a place where life flourishes, where rivers of pure water flow, where the presence of God fills every leaf, every breeze, every breath. And yet, heaven is not empty. It is a place filled with beings unlike anything we have ever encountered. The inhabitants of heaven, the angelic realm who dwells in heaven, who walks its golden streets, sings its celestial songs, and stands before the throne of God. The most well-known inhabitants of heaven are angels. But contrary to popular belief, angels are not simply winged figures in white robes. In fact, the Bible describes them as powerful, awe-inspiring beings with roles far beyond what most people imagine. The word angel comes from the Greek angelos, meaning messenger. But angels are more than just messengers. They are warriors, protectors, and worshippers of the Most High. There are different kinds of angels in heaven. Seraphim, fiery, six-winged beings who stand in the presence of God, crying out, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty." Cherubim, guardians of divine mysteries, often depicted as having multiple faces and covered in eyes, symbolizing their immense wisdom. Archangels, powerful leaders among the angels, such as Michael, who leads heavenly armies against the forces of darkness. Ministering spirits, angels assigned to protect and guide those on earth, often called guardian angels. But not all angels remained in heaven. The Bible also speaks of fallen angels, beings who rebelled against God and were cast down from their place of glory. This raises a chilling question. If a war broke out in heaven once, could it happen again? The battle between light and darkness is not over. And in the unseen realms, forces beyond our understanding are still at war. But that is a story for another chapter. The messengers of heaven. Who are the angels? For centuries, angels have fascinated humanity. They appear in art, literature, and religious texts, often depicted as radiant beings with flowing robes and mighty wings. But what are angels, really? Are they gentle guardians watching over us? Or are they powerful warriors engaged in a cosmic battle beyond our comprehension? According to the Bible, angels are far more than mere symbols of peace. They are divine beings created by God, each with a specific purpose. Some are messengers, delivering the will of God to humanity. Others are protectors, shielding the faithful from unseen dangers. And some are warriors, engaged in an ancient conflict between light and darkness. But before we explore the battle that rages beyond our world, we must first understand the roles of these heavenly beings. The many roles of angels. Not all angels are the same. In fact, the Bible describes a vast hierarchy of angelic beings, each with unique abilities and responsibilities. The messengers, bearers of divine truth throughout history, angels have served as God's messengers, delivering instructions, warnings, and revelations. One of the most well-known examples is the angel Gabriel, who appeared to Mary and announced the birth of Jesus. "Do not be afraid, Mary. You have found favor with God. You will conceive and give birth to a son, and you are to call him Jesus." Luke, chapter 1, verses 30 and 31. Angels like Gabriel serve as intermediaries between heaven and earth, ensuring that God's will is made known to mankind. But not all angels simply deliver messages. Some are sent to protect those in need. The guardians, protectors of the faithful. The concept of guardian angels has existed for thousands of years. In the book of Psalms, we read, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." Psalms, chapter 91, verse 11. Many believe that every person has an angel assigned to watch over them. These angels are said to intervene in moments of danger, guiding people away from harm or giving them strength in times of trial. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus himself speaks of these angels. "See that you do not despise one of these little ones. For I tell you that their angels in heaven always see the face of my Father in heaven." Matthew, chapter 18, verse 10. But while some angels serve as messengers and protectors, others have a far more fearsome duty. The warriors, heaven's army. Not all angels carry messages of peace. Some are called to fight. The Bible describes angelic warriors who engage in battle against the forces of darkness. The most famous of these is Michael the Archangel, the commander of heaven's armies. In the book of Revelation, Michael leads the charge against the great enemy. Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. Revelation, chapter 12, verses 7 and 8. The dragon in this passage is none other than Satan himself, the fallen angel who once stood among heaven's greatest beings. This brings us to one of the most mysterious and terrifying events in history, the war in heaven. The Great Heavenly War, a battle between good and evil long before humanity walked the earth. A war erupted in the spiritual realm. It was a conflict unlike any other, a rebellion within heaven itself. According to the Bible, one of God's most powerful angels, Lucifer, was not content with his place in creation. He was beautiful, wise, and full of splendor, but his heart was filled with pride. He did not want to serve, He wanted to rule. In the book of Isaiah, we hear the voice of Lucifer's pride. I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will make myself like the Most High. Isaiah chapter 14, verses 13 and 14. With these words, Lucifer, now known as Satan, led a rebellion against God. He convinced a great number of angels to follow him, promising them power and glory. But their uprising was doomed from the start. The book of Revelation describes the final moments of this battle, and the great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was thrown to the earth, and his angels with him. Revelation chapter 12, verse 9. The defeated angels, now fallen, became known as demons, dark spirits that seek to corrupt and destroy. Their war did not end with their exile from heaven. It continues to this day, fought in the hearts and souls of mankind. But here's the most terrifying thought. Satan and his followers were not cast into hell. Not yet. The Bible tells us that they still roam the earth, seeking to deceive and devour. Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8. The war between good and evil is not just a story of the past. It is unfolding all around us. And according to Scripture, it is far from over. One day, the final battle will come. And when it does, heaven's warriors will once again rise to fight. The only question is, which side will you stand on? The unseen war. A conflict beyond time. There is a war raging at this very moment, one that most people never see. It is not a war of nations or armies. It is a war fought in the spiritual realm, a battle between forces of light and darkness. This conflict did not begin on Earth. It began long before the first human ever walked the land. It started in the very heart of heaven, when one of God's most powerful angels, Lucifer, refused to serve and instead sought to rule. When Lucifer was cast out of heaven, his rebellion did not end. It simply changed location. No longer able to attack heaven directly, he turned his hatred toward humanity. And from that moment on, a great spiritual battle has been fought in the unseen world, shaping the course of human history. But how does this battle affect us? And more importantly, what does the future hold? Satan. The great accuser. One of the most chilling descriptions of Satan in the Bible is that of the accuser. He is not just a deceiver. He is a prosecutor, standing before God, bringing charges against humanity. In the book of Job, we see a rare glimpse into this role. Satan comes before God and challenges the faith of Job, claiming that Job only serves God because of his blessings. He seeks permission to test Job, to strip away his wealth, his health, and his happiness, to prove that Job will turn against God. Does Job fear God for nothing? Satan replied, "Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? But now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face." Job chapter 1, verses 9 through 11. This is what Satan does. He accuses. He whispers lies. He fills the human heart with doubt and fear, hoping to turn people away from their Creator. But his time is running out. The Bible foretells that a day is coming when Satan's accusations will no longer be heard in heaven, because he will be cast down permanently. The final war. The prophecy of the end. Revelation, the last book of the Bible, gives us a terrifying yet hopeful glimpse into the future. It speaks of a final battle, a moment when the forces of heaven and hell will collide in a way never seen before. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. Revelation chapter 12, verses 7 through 9. This moment will mark the beginning of the end for Satan. No longer will he be allowed to accuse, deceive, or manipulate. He will be thrown down, his power shattered. But even then, his destruction will not be immediate. The Bible warns that before his final defeat, Satan will unleash his fury on earth, knowing that his time is short. Woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has gone down to you. He is filled with fury because he knows that his time is short. Revelation chapter 12, verse 12. This will be a time of great turmoil, a time of deception, suffering, and spiritual warfare unlike anything seen before. But for those who remain faithful, a greater promise awaits, the ultimate victory of heaven over darkness. Earth versus heaven. The great divide, the difference between earth and heaven, is simple. Earth has been corrupted by sin. Heaven has not. From the moment Adam and Eve chose to listen to the serpent instead of God, sin entered the world. And with sin came pain, suffering, and death. The perfect harmony of creation was shattered. The Bible describes the world's condition in heartbreaking words. The earth is defiled by its people. They have disobeyed the laws, violated the statutes, and broken the everlasting covenant. Isaiah chapter 24, verse 5. In contrast, heaven remains untouched. It is a place of pure holiness, where the presence of God fills every corner, where there is no pain, no sorrow, and no evil. But here's the incredible truth. One day, heaven and earth will no longer be separate. Revelation speaks of a new beginning, a day when heaven will descend, and God will dwell among his people forever. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, and I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God." Revelation chapter 21, verses 1 through 3. The battle between good and evil will end. Sin, suffering, and death will be no more. And for those who remain faithful, a new home will await, one greater than anything we can imagine. A world made new, a world without darkness, a world where God reigns forever. The only question is, will you be part of it? The fall of the world. How sin changed everything. In the beginning, earth was not a place of suffering. There was no death, no pain, no fear, only peace, harmony, and perfect communion with God. Humanity was created to live in paradise, walking freely in the presence of the Creator. But something changed. A single act of disobedience shattered the perfection of creation. When Adam and Eve chose to listen to the serpent instead of obeying God, they did more than break a rule. They introduced sin into the world. And with sin came consequences. By one man, sin entered the world, and death through sin. And in this way, death came to all people, because all have sinned. Romans chapter 5, verse 12. From that moment on, the world was no longer a paradise. The ground was cursed. Pain became a part of life. Death became inevitable. Humanity was separated from God, exiled from the garden that had once been their home. Sin spread like a disease, corrupting everything it touched. It distorted human nature, turning hearts towards selfishness, violence, and rebellion. It infected families, societies, and even the natural world itself. And worst of all, it created a barrier between God and humanity, a divide so great that no human effort could ever bridge it. Why God cannot tolerate sin? God is pure, holy, and righteous. In his presence, there is no darkness, no evil, no corruption, no sin. Your eyes are too pure to look on evil. You cannot tolerate wrongdoing. Habakkuk chapter 1, verse 13. This is why sin is so destructive. It is not just a mistake. It is a force that separates humanity from its creator. Just as light cannot coexist with darkness, God cannot dwell where sin remains. Many people believe that if they live a good enough life, they can earn their way back to God. But the Bible makes it clear. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Romans chapter 3, verse 23. No one is righteous enough to enter heaven on their own. No amount of good deeds can erase the stain of sin. The gap between God and humanity is too wide, unless someone bridges it. And that is exactly what God did. The path to purity, the sacrifice of Christ. God did not leave humanity in darkness. He made a way for sin to be removed, for the broken relationship to be restored, for paradise to be regained. But this could only happen through a sacrifice, a perfect sacrifice. That is why Jesus Christ came into the world. He lived a sinless life, free from the corruption that had infected mankind. And then, he did something extraordinary. He took the punishment for sin upon himself. God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 21. Through his death on the cross, Jesus bore the full weight of humanity's rebellion. He suffered, not for his own wrongdoing, but for ours. And in doing so, he provided the only way for people to be cleansed, redeemed, and restored to God. Whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. John chapter 3, verse 16. This is the ultimate invitation. The chance to be made new, to leave behind the corruption of this world, and to enter a kingdom where sin and death no longer exist. A kingdom described in breathtaking detail in the final pages of the Bible. The vision of heaven. The revelation of John in the book of Revelation, the Apostle John is given a glimpse of heaven, not as it is now, but as it will be when all things are made new. He sees a city unlike any on earth, shining with the glory of God. Its streets are made of pure gold, its walls adorned with precious stones. There is no temple, because God himself dwells among his people. The city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light. Revelation chapter 21, verse 23, and then the most powerful promise of all. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. Revelation chapter 21, verse 4. No more suffering, no more sorrow, no more sin. This is the future that awaits those who accept the sacrifice of Christ. A world restored to perfection, a paradise greater than the one that was lost. And best of all, God will be there. A day is coming when heaven and earth will be united, when those who have been cleansed by Christ will walk once again in the presence of their Creator, not as strangers, not as outcasts, but as beloved children returning home. The vision of heaven. The revelation of John in the book of Revelation, the Apostle John is given a glimpse of heaven, not as it is now, but as it will be when all things are made new. He sees a city unlike any on earth, shining with the glory of God. Its streets are made of pure gold, its walls adorned with precious stones. There is no temple, because God himself dwells among his people. The city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light. Revelation chapter 21, verse 23, and then the most powerful promise of all. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. Revelation chapter 21, verse 4. No more suffering, no more sorrow, no more sin. This is the future that awaits those who accept the sacrifice of Christ. A world restored to perfection, a paradise greater than the one that was lost. And best of all, God will be there. A day is coming when heaven and earth will be united, when those who have been cleansed by Christ will walk once again in the presence of their Creator, not as strangers, not as outcasts, but as beloved children returning home. The city of light. Streets of gold and the glorious kingdom imagined standing before a city unlike anything seen on earth. Its walls shimmer with the radiance of precious stones, sapphire, emerald, and topaz, each reflecting a divine light. The streets beneath your feet are pure gold, yet they shine with a transparency like glass. There is no sun, no moon, yet the entire city glows with an eternal brilliance. This is the New Jerusalem, the heavenly city described in the book of Revelation. The great street of the city was of gold, as pure as transparent glass. Revelation chapter 21, verse 21. A place where gates are made of pearl, where the river of life flows from the throne of God, and where the tree of life stands, its leaves bringing healing to the nations. But is this city meant to be taken literally? Or is it a vision, a symbolic representation of something even greater? The symbolism of heaven's beauty throughout the Bible. Gold represents purity, incorruptibility, and divine glory. Unlike earthly metals, gold does not rust or decay. It is eternal, just like the kingdom of God. The transparency of the golden streets suggests a world where nothing is hidden, where all things are illuminated by God's presence. It symbolizes complete truth, purity, and a life free from deception. The 12 gates of pearl remind us of suffering turned into beauty. A pearl is formed through hardship, just as the faithful have endured trials on earth before entering the kingdom of heaven. Even the foundations of the city, adorned with 12 precious stones, echo the idea of something unchangeable, perfect, and divinely crafted. But while John's vision gives us glimpses of heaven's majesty, it is still only a shadow of the real thing. Why heaven remains a mystery no human words, no earthly images can fully capture the reality of heaven. Even John, who was given a vision of it, had to describe it in terms that human minds could grasp. Paul writes, "No eye has seen, no ear has heard, no human mind has conceived what God has prepared for those who love him." 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 9. This is why heaven remains partly hidden from us. Not because God wishes to keep secrets, but because our current understanding is too limited to fully comprehend its glory. Just as a child cannot grasp the vastness of the universe, so too are we unable to fathom the depths of eternity. But one day, that will change. What awaits us? The final promise. So, what awaits those who seek heaven? According to Scripture, a time will come when heaven and earth will no longer be separate. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. Revelation chapter 21, verses 1 through 3. Heaven is not just a distant place. It is the future home of those redeemed by Christ. A place where pain, suffering, and death will be no more. A place where every tear will be wiped away. And most importantly, a place where we will walk with God, face to face, for all eternity. The gates of that city stand open. The invitation has been given. The only question is, will you enter? The final prophecy. The eternal kingdom. The last pages of the Bible reveal a promise so extraordinary that it is almost impossible to comprehend. A day is coming when heaven and earth will no longer be separate, when God himself will restore everything that was lost. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will live with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God." Revelation chapter 21, verses 1 through 3. This is the final prophecy, the ultimate destiny of those who remain faithful. No more suffering, no more sin, no more separation from God. A new beginning in a kingdom that will never fade. But how do we ensure that we are part of it? The path to heaven. How should we live? Many believe that getting to heaven is about being a good person. But the Bible teaches that heaven is not earned by deeds alone. No one is perfect. No one is without sin. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Romans chapter 3, verse 23. So how can we enter heaven? The answer is grace. Through Jesus Christ, a way has been opened, a path not based on human effort, but on faith and redemption. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. John chapter 14, verse 6. To enter heaven, we must turn away from sin, seek God with our whole heart, and accept the salvation offered through Christ. It is not about following a list of rules. It is about a relationship, a life of faith, love, and obedience to God's will. Heaven is not just a place we go after death. It is a promise that begins now, in the way we live, the way we love, and the way we walk with God. Heaven is real. It is greater than anything we can imagine, and it is waiting for those who are willing to walk the path of faith. This world is temporary. Everything we see will one day fade, but what God has prepared is eternal. So live with purpose, seek truth, walk in love, and never forget, the greatest journey is yet to come. If this message inspired you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. See you in the next one.